Hi, Joey. I'm doing great so far. I will say hi to everyone in Victoria, British Columbia. That's on the west coast of Canada. I'm Frankie down.
If you are cranky and it is snowy, you can watch Frankie and Joey. This week we're back with Dylan, Atack, and Mark Robinson from the Weather Network, Brandon Houck from Southern Alberta, Ronnie Grigg in Vancouver Tent City, Washboard Hank, GB the Rappin Weatherman, Noelle McKee in Vancouver City, Olivier Forbes in Kugluktuk, Trey Campbell in Texas. Did I forget anybody? Yes, I think I did. I think I forgot to mention Cheesebun, Peterson, and Celista BC. It's gonna be a goodie. And welcome to episode 13 of the Comedeorological Report. That's right, you're listening to CFR 88.7 FM in Prince George, or you're listening on www.cfr.ca. Welcome everyone to the show. It's the Comedeorological Report. That's where comedy plus meteorology equals comedeorology. So that's what we like to do, talk comedeorology. So we have a whole bunch of people in the studio with us on the Zoom call, and we'll introduce you to all of them as we get going, and we'll get a good old complaining. Well, the thing is, this is Canada's weather show about how much the weather sucks, but it doesn't suck here at all today right now. It's been just lovely. I mean, really, the snow is melting like crazy. We've got so much snow. It's actually what we call spring breakup in the mountains, and it's spring breakup in the mountains. And what spring breakup? It's partly a logging term, but it's also when the fresh footprints between Cheaty Cheaterton's houses turn from snow to mud. I mean, yeah, it's been a hard winter here. I've been in 26 relationships so far this year, all with the same woman, and I love her so much. But I'm glad spring is here. I'm doing real well. Welcome to the show, everybody. Let's start going across and say hi to everybody. And Brandon Houck, you've been on the line first. So how's Southern Alberta right now?
Oh, well, Southern Alberta, absolutely beautiful. We're under that ridge of high pressure, the blocking, the Rex block there. We're at least at 15 degrees this afternoon. And over the next couple of days, I think we get to 20 on Saturday at least. But then another cold front's coming through Saturday night into Sunday, and that's going to bring some interesting weather in the form of rain and maybe some snow returning and some cooler temperatures in the next week. But otherwise, I think we should be okay. Probably higher amounts in the foothills and the mountains, probably about 10 centimeters. But earlier this week, we had a pretty nasty snowstorm, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. Some areas got up to 30 centimeters this week there. So they're still kind of trying to get that warmer air, and it's taken some time because the snow is on the ground. So
welcome to my snowy world. I'm really, really glad to see we got quite a list of people already on here today. We have from the Weather Network, Mark Robinson. Oh, we have Gabriel Berardo, GB, the Rappin Weatherman down in Toronto. David Roy Parsons is in Vancouver. Olivier, he's up in the far north. We got Trey Campbell from ESPN Texas Radio. He's a phone icon tonight. And who else? We got Frankie MacDonald, of course.
Hi, Gabriel. I'm doing great so far.
How's the weather in Halifax, and how's the weather in Sydney, Nova Scotia?
Right now, it's going to get a lot of rain this weekend. And Maine's getting a snowstorm on Friday night. Gabriel, I use Skype too.
Mark Robinson, what were you doing today in Southern Ontario?
Not a lot, actually. There was a bit of snow. We had a bit of snow here, unfortunately, in Southern Ontario. It's kind of slushy rain. I like to call it bouncy rain. It's something I got from one of my Twitter followers. She called it bouncy rain. I decided that was probably the best thing I've ever heard. And I was doing some filming for my new Science Behind the Weather segments for the Weather Network. So not a lot of storm chasing right now, just a lot of doing some new projects.
It's super, super early in the season. So we're going to come back and we're going to talk to you, but we're going to cycle through everyone quick and get their weather. And of course, Gabriel, you're also in Southern Ontario. Tell us about your experience this week, and we want to hear your weather rap, man.
Temperature is 13, 14, 15, right? And it's actually been okay. So I've been, getting outside lately, right? But it's been all fine lately. And then you see rain this afternoon, cloudy skies, and I'm like, oh man, rainy, and it was only like 6, so it was those cool spring days that I don't like. Okay, I like the weather, right? I like the storms, right? The action, almost like Mark does, right? Like we like to see all like the crazy weather stuff, right? We had a few showers, but as of right now, here's the radar look. Showers are now moving out, looking a bit more dry, heading into the next few, days or so. Temperatures 12, maybe 13 degrees, and then you see it's getting warmer. And if you would like a weather wrap, then just tell me when to go, because I'll just put on a little beat here and I'll just start rapping, trying my best rapping a 7-day forecast freestyle, if you would like to hear it.
Drop some lines, man.
Y'all already know that today it was a high of 6 degrees, and yes, I'm praying to the weather gods. Could I please have on top of, you know what, man, all the clouds and all the showers I have seen. And as we head into Friday, a high of 10, you know what, man, all this rain so you could not head outside once again. Saturday, a high of 12 with a few showers, man, I gotta head outside, but now I know it's gonna be a better day because Sunday, a high of 13. Everybody gotta head outside right now, and this I'm not sure if you really heard me, but Monday, a high of 15. Everybody really gotta head outside because, man, the sun is gonna make it for a sunny screen. Y'all already know right now. Tuesday, a high of 13 on it with some rain, but you know what, the weather will change. Heading into Wednesday, a high of 9. Look at that sun and it will shine. Heading into next weekend, Thursday, a high of 8. You know what, man, it's not too late to go head outside to enjoy the sunny skies, because on Thursday, yeah, man, some rain is on the way, and on Friday, some rain is on the way with a high of 11. You know what, man, so you really better head outside once again before the weather gets cold and hot. But you know what, man, that's how spring works, so everybody really gotta head outside right now because the weather gets so crazy on Earth. Looking at me and so I'm hunting my crops and I'm gonna be tracking the weather all over Southern Ontario. So everybody better head outside right now because we tracking and going in the vehicle. Yeah. Okay. There you go.
Spit
Nice
some
job,
fast.
Gabriel.
Spit some fast.
That was all off my mind, by the way. I was actually looking at the weather forecast the whole time.
That is totally sick. Dylan Atack.
Right.
Dylan Atack, Hamilton, Ontario. Tell me about your week so far. How about the weather? How about biking?
My
Thank you
week's
so much,
been
Gabriel.
great. Weather's been it was raining here yesterday, and I've been biking lots. Lost over 60 pounds since COVID started, so I've been doing really well, and hoping that the weather will be nice. And I do like storms, so I can't wait to see Mark in my area to come chase storms here in Hamilton.
We also got in Southern Ontario, Washboard Hank has just showed up. Washboard Hank,
folks.
how you doing?
I'm doing great. It was raining today, and I took Myrtle out to hunt groundhogs at the Costco. Myrtle's my dog, and there's always groundhogs at the Costco. But you know what, Frankie? Groundhogs don't go out in the rain.
They don't go in the rain at all.
No, the groundhogs don't like rain.
They don't. If they see a shower or not, they're unpredictable.
Well, wet up your knife and call up your dog. Wet up your knife and call up your dog. We're gonna get an old groundhog. Groundhog, groundhog. Well, here comes Frankie on his game. Here comes Frankie on his cane. Said they're gonna eat that groundhog's brain. Groundhog. Well, here comes Dylan with a snigger and a grin. Here comes Dylan with a snigger and a grin. Groundhog gravy all around his shin. Groundhog, groundhog. Well, here comes Joey with a 10-foot pole. Here comes Joey with a 10-foot pole. This groundhog right out of his hole. Groundhog, groundhog.
Good to see you, Washboard Hank.
There's a little groundhog music for you.
stick around the show because
Olivier.
that's who I want to talk to next. Where is Olivier? Where are you? You're way up in the freaking far north.
The weather is actually fantastic. It's the warmest day of the year so far here in Kugluktuk, Nunavut. So if you don't know where that is, we're about 100 miles north of the Arctic Circle in Nunavut. So with a whopping minus 9 degrees Celsius, here I am wearing my spring jacket. We still have 3 hours or so before the sun sets. So it's I'm walking my dog. I don't know where she's at. She's out there somewhere. I noticed the Washboard Hank said usually his dog would be catching groundhogs, but mine would be out here catching ground squirrels, but they're not out from hibernation yet.
Watch out for them.
And Mark
Muskox.
Robinson.
Yeah, I gotta watch out for those muskox. They're out there somewhere on the Arctic Ocean.
Please stick around, Olivier, and tell us more.
It's absolutely fantastic here right now, and I'll probably go inside eventually because minus 9, even though it's a dry cold, it's still cold.
We're almost through everybody, and then we're gonna come back to Mark. Trey Campbell, he's down at he's our friend who produces radio at ESPN in Texas, Houston, Texas. Trey, how is the gorgeous Texas weather been for you?
It hasn't been too gorgeous. It's been raining. It's been raining a whole lot. There was sort of a northeast wind today, and the wind wasn't too bad. It was only like 10 to 15 miles an hour, but it's been pouring down rain. But Texas needed it. They were in a drought, and this rain couldn't have come at a better time. It is pretty annoying if you want to put your dog outside because he's tearing up your house. But you know, it's coming at the right time, and hopefully it'll stop. But it's not looking like it's gonna stop here, and it's gonna rain well into next week. But like I was saying, the city needs it because it's a drought, and you know, we'll just keep on pushing through the rain, and next week it should be back to the overcast humidity we're used to here. The humidity in Houston is always pretty bad, but you know, it's extremely bad when it's raining. So it'll be. But other than that, it was good last week, and you know, it'll probably go back to being partly cloudy next week, but a lot of rain we're supposed to get here in the next few days.
Stick around with us, Trey. And what I like to get you all do is you have a chance now to talk to a real deal meteorologist in Mark Robinson from Weather Network. So put your mind on a question you'd like to ask him. So I've been thinking about asking Mark first. How did you get to be top 100 National Geographic Explorer of Canada? And where did you rank on that list? I mean, surely did you beat Captain Sir John Franklin?
You know what? I don't think it was actually ranked. I think it was just like the top 100 period. There wasn't really a rank to it, but I probably should have ranked it like 99 to 100 compared to some of the people on that list. It was truly amazing to be on that list. I couldn't believe it when I saw my name on it. I was like, are you kidding me? So that was really, really cool for that. But yeah, no, it was good though. I've enjoyed going out and exploring all over. Like I've seen a good chunk of Canada. Probably more than a lot of Canadians get to see. The most Canadians get to see, and of course, you know, being able to go cruise all across the world has been really, really cool. COVID has kind of put a damper on that though, because I've been stuck basically in Southern Ontario for basically the last year. So I did a lot of my storm chasing in the province as opposed to, you know, going down to Tornado Alley, and that's going to happen again this year too because we can't go anywhere.
Hey, Mark, I know Nathan Coleman. He lives in Halifax, Nova Scotia. He interviewed me. I was on the Weather Network in March 2016. Nathan Coleman's the guy who lives in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And Joey, you have to get Nathan Coleman on your show soon.
Yeah, no, I love Nate. I go out and see Nate all the time. Nate's great. And I so miss coming out to the East Coast. I couldn't even go out to the East Coast last year. I've always, every single year since 2008, 2010, I have been out to the East Coast. This is like the first year I didn't get to go out there, and it's killing me. I love the East Coast.
1, 2, 3, everyone say cheese.
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 I like to introduce to one of my fans. His name is George. He lives all the way in Moscow, Russia.
Nice.
You ever been to Russia,
Nice.
Frankie?
Not yet.
Where was I going? So, Mark, you don't get to go down to Tornado Alley this year.
Nope.
So I seen the episode of Storm Hunters when you were there for the El Reno tornado of
Yeah.
2013.
I did
And
too.
that was a really watched storm season. I mean, I think I've seen more video of that season from
Yeah.
either Reed Timmer or other sources or on Discovery Channel episodes or History Channel. You know, like that's been
Yeah.
a really featured storm. I'd love to hear some of your firsthand take of
Oof.
how-
That was
it was such a ridiculous the motion of it, the behavior of it was just that was not one you'd want to be in.
yeah. I mean, you gotta put El Reno in a little bit of context as well, because El Reno wasn't. I mean, if El Reno was the one tornado that year, it would have been a groundbreaker, but it wasn't. That was right on the heels of the Moore EF5, where a bunch of children unfortunately died. It did massive damage to Moore. So Jacqueline and I had sort of come off of that, and we've been reporting on that for 3 days. And it was kind of funny because it was just me, Jacqueline, and like a DeGero box, which is just this little sort of handheld thing that we had. And we're up against CNN, NBC, ABC, CBS, and these guys have all got like these giant entourages and everything else. And here's like me and Jacqueline just sort of doing this, you know, like our little like, hi, we're the Canadians. But it was only us. So we were dealing with like seriously emotional stories. We were sort of traveling around, taking a look. And that was the one advantage that we had over these big guys, was that we could like move wherever we wanted. So it was really sort of emotionally draining on Jack and I for those 3 days that we were there. And then we saw we sort of said, well, to our boss, we sort of said, hey, looks like there's going to be another trough coming through. Can you let us stay down for a few more days? And he said, yeah, okay, you know what? Stay for it. It's good. Like the stuff we've got from you is really incredible so far. Stay for a few more days, and then, you know, we'll see when you come back. So we're like, okay, great. And so we were pretty exhausted at that point, and as I said, pretty emotionally drained. We sort of got to that day, and we saw the parameters on that day, and we were just like, oh my God, this is nuts. Like, we basically said either everything's going to go up and there isn't going to be tornadoes, or every single storm is going to have a big tornado on it moving fairly quickly. So that day we ended up driving, and we were just we were in Norman, Oklahoma, and Norman, Oklahoma to El Reno is like, I don't know, 45-minute drive maybe. Like, it's really close. So like normally we're driving for like hours to get to the spot. So we get there. So we're just sitting around waiting and waiting and waiting, and just the anticipation. All the chasers were there. We talked to Reed. We talked to, like, there were so many chasers that were sitting with us, and we just constantly were like under this serious pressure of like, this is gonna be a big day. This is gonna be a big day. This is gonna be a really scary day. It's gonna be really scary. It's gonna be really scary. And so we dealt with that all day long. I think had I been a smoker, I would have gone through like 7 packs. Like just no way. It was just so hard to keep calm. So instead of that, I drank a bunch of energy drinks, and so I was paranoid and jittery. So then we see the first storms go up, and 3 of them sort of go up in a row just to the west of El Reno. And so we're like, okay, let's go. And so we get out there, and they very quickly went into a giant mush, and we're like, okay, this is the day where everything goes mushy, everything goes up, no tornadoes are going to form because no storms can get isolated. So meh. So we sort of drove west, north, east, south, like literally just did a big circle, and then started down the 82. So we were just south of the I-44, I think. I mean, it's been a while since, like, I'd have to look at the maps again. But the interstate that runs between essentially Oklahoma City and Amarillo. And so we ducked south, or we were south of there. So I guess we were south. We were at the interstate south there. Anyway, it all blurs after a while. So we were sitting on the 82 just south of El Reno, just south of the interstate. This one storm, the very southern part of that big Blobo storm, started to show a radar couplet. So it started to show serious rotation on it. And we're like, we're looking at it going, I can't see a thing. There's nothing there. What's going on? What's this thing showing? And Jack and I are sitting there. We're sitting there. And this thing starts to come towards us. And our friend Bill Houck was over at the airport, and we started hearing like reports of a tornado. And we're like, okay, where is it? And we can't see anything. It's just a big gray wall. And suddenly there's a power flash, and there's a little tube. We're like, oh, there it is. And I'm like, oh, we're in a great spot. It's like going to go north of us. It's going to probably go just right near
Tornadoes
Reno.
can produce large hail.
Oh, yeah. And then there's another power flash. And all of a sudden, the tornado's over here. And then another power flash, and it's over here. We're going, what's going on? And then suddenly Jack and I realized we were looking at the tornado that covered almost the entire horizon. The whole thing was the tornado. And we just went, and
We're not in a good place.
We jumped in the car. We're like, we have to go south now because we can see it swinging down towards us. And we were like, we have to go right now. And we jumped in the car and took off down the road. And our two friends, Scott McPartland and Dave Lewison, they came 90 seconds behind us. And we were flying south to get out of the way of this thing. And as it turned out later, if we had sat right where we were, we would have seen the northern edge of the tornado. Like it would have passed like 20 feet to our south. So we booked it south, immediately ran into all kinds of traffic. So we're having a bit of a heart attack. We go through this little town called Union City, and we see a bunch of people getting into a storm shelter. And I said to Jack, remember where those people are, because if we're in this traffic jam, I want to know if we have to get out of the car and we can like dive into their storm shelter with them. And Jack's like, okay, I know where they are. And we called Scott and Dave on the radio. And keep in mind, they're 90 seconds behind us. Like, that's it. And Scott McPartland loves to chat on the radio. So he, normally we key up, we talk to him. He'll go on for quite a while. And I call up Scott, Dave, you guys coming? Yes. Scott, Dave, you guys okay? Yes. I'm like, oh, this isn't good. This is not good. And so we get south, and it passed just to our north, about I would say half a kilometer to our north. It passed behind us. And when we talked to Scott and Dave afterwards, Scott and Dave were flying south to catch up to us. And Dave said he looked, like Scott was driving, so Scott wasn't looking at anything but the road. Dave was looking in the field beside him, and he could see the tornado sweeping across the field towards him. And Dave said, in his head, he said to himself, this might be the one we don't make it out of. They made it, but it was as close as I'd ever like to be. That one was really scary, considering that there was we ended up in Chickasha that night. Power outages. We were hearing stories that there was a new tornado that had smashed into Oklahoma City. We were seeing ambulances flying south, just ambulance after ambulance after ambulance, and then just hordes of cars going past us to the south. And we're going like, what is going on? Because power outages, we had no internet. We had no way of knowing what was going on. It was one of the scarier nights I've had in Tornado Alley.
Oh, you'd think so, yeah. It was
Wow. My God.
Legendary week, legendary storm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for telling us that version,
Wow.
version of your
Oh.
experience.
Yeah, that was
Hey,
informative.
Mark, when you're chasing tornadoes, you got to deal with hailstones.
Yeah, gotta deal with hailstones. Yeah. Thank goodness.
Yeah, wait, like Mark, that was like 2.6 miles long. So like you think about that. That's like my whole entire town that I'm in like now. That's like almost all of it. It was like, wow, oh my gosh. Yeah, I know. Wow, eh?
4.5 kilometers wide.
Yeah.
With wind speeds in there that were measured at 475 kilometers an hour, but they didn't hit anything with those wind speeds, so it got classified as an EF3 according to the Vegeta scale, and that's legit, all right? Because we've chosen to measure tornadoes by the damage they do. So if they don't do damage, even though we can literally measure the winds on them, we have to classify it. Otherwise, the classification scale gets all messy. So that's just what we've decided to do. And that was why there was a big controversy over whether that was an EF5 or an EF3. And it got classified as an EF3. And I get it.
It was at its strongest out in some fields. And
yeah, it really was.
Yeah.
Yeah, my friend Bill Houck was he was bombing east to get away from this thing out of the airport. And when he caught up to us later, Bill was crying, and he's an experienced chaser because he's like, guys, I saw chasers get swallowed up behind me by the tornado. He's like, I know there's dead chasers. I know people have died today. And at the time, we didn't know Tim Samaras had lost his life. And he went down the road that was right beside where we started. Like Jack and I we went to the memorial that's there, and it's on the road that we were literally sitting on when we went south. So we decided to go south to stay on the paved road, and Tim went east on the gravel road. And what none of us were expecting was, as the tornado sort of swung south, it started to speed up. So it started off fairly small, and then it swung south and like expanded and sped up. So it's like it got swung like this. And so that big speed up caught Tim like this as it hit him like that.
Multiple vortices firing out in every direction.
Yeah, there was. I mean, we had Dan Robinson was right in front of Tim, and he said he literally saw Tim like disappear behind him. And Dan got out of the way, and like when we were heading south, we were well away from the tornado. We weren't like that close, and we were getting hurricane force gusts into the front of the car, so that I had my foot on the floor. Like literally, I had that thing almost redlined to get south, and I couldn't get over about 120 kilometers an hour. Like the
RPMs are just burning.
Yeah, it was just man, and I'm like no, there's nothing going on. And we're getting debris like bouncing off the car, like just stuff pulled off the fields and bouncing off the car and just firing into the tornado behind us. And that was, that was scary. I mean, I would just remember, just sitting in the car going, oh my God, what are we going to do? Like, this is really frightening because we saw that tornado, and then there was another one forming to the south. So we had the main one, and then we had another one forming down here. So we had to keep going south to get out of the way of the second one that could have been just as strong. Now, it didn't fully form and didn't turn into anything. So we could have stopped in Union City and gone east, and we would have been fine. But we kept going south, almost down to Chickasha, and then realized that it had passed by and we were okay. But it was like the things that you sort of guess now, you sort of go, "Oh, we should have done this." Well, yeah, that's great. Hindsight is 20/20. But at the time, we had no idea. We had no idea what was going on, and the reports we were getting, everything. There was so much stuff flying at all times, and we were trying to get a hold of chaser friends, and we weren't seeing them. We were watching on SpotterNet. Our friend Dan Shaw, he goes screaming he was going across the highway, and we see a SpotterNet icon. The tornado sort of does this, and you see a SpotterNet icon. The tornado goes right over top of him, and then his SpotterNet icon just stops. And it stayed there for an hour and then disappeared. And we're like, we're trying to get a hold of him. We're on the phone. Dan, are you okay? Dan, are you okay? Did you get hit? Did you get hit? Did you get hit?
Upside down in the field.
Yeah, it was he actually saw, like, it had weakened very much by the time it got up to the highway, so that there wasn't much left of it, maybe EF1, EF0, and it was just buried in the rain, so he couldn't see it. So he's driving along, he comes to a halt, an 18-wheeler who was following his lights comes flying up behind him, slams on his brakes, hits Dan slides forward, and then because he had a GoPro in the back window, it's facing the 18-wheeler, and you see the 18-wheeler sitting here goes ding! Right over on its side.
The tornado doesn't get you, the highway will. We do have two friends from Vancouver, and I want to get to you, Noelle, but also Ronnie Grigg's stopping in, and he's from Ronnie Grigg's was on last week. He's my legendary friend who's an overdose prevention worker in Vancouver, and he's right now on the downtown east side at the Tent City. Ronnie, can you see me? Can you hear me?
I can see and hear you, and that's quite a conversation to come in on the end on. That sounds amazing.
It's really sideways in your neighborhood, man.
Is it? Am I sideways?
Yeah.
Okay, what if I went like...
Okay, good. I was getting worried that gravity had gone weird. Oh, no, Gabriel. Gravity's gone weird.
Okay. Sorry, man.
Ronnie Grigg.
Gravity's super strong in Vancouver today.
So what do you got from us from Tent City today?
Ooh, well, for one thing, I'm kind of last time I was talking to you across the street. Now I'm in the middle of camp, so you might be able to hear, people and noises and whatever. So Hopefully that's a good thing, you know. Can you see behind me here?
I can.
That's our ops tent and some artwork that some people in the camp have done for Camp Hopes. And in there is our overdose prevention stuff going on. And so I'm facing west. The sun's going down. It's been a lovely day in Vancouver, man. It's been beautiful.
You have somebody else on there?
Look at that. Where are you? Yeah.
Or are you just recording?
No. Yeah, someone. I'm talking to someone.
I think that's me. I think that's me.
So what's going on is like it's hot in Vancouver, man, and I'm just doing a weather show.
I'm the member of the Facebook group Vancouver Island Weather E2 Analysis.
Yep.
I did the weather forecast for Vancouver Island today.
Oh, that's awesome, Frankie. Good to see you again, man.
I'm the member of the Vancouver Island Weather E2S's Facebook group. I was doing weather for them. I mentioned Victoria and Nine and all these places. People in the city say that I just did a shuttle to Daniel Tosh, aka Tosh.0, just today.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of people like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great reference. Did you hear what the weather's like out here on the West Coast today?
Right now, it's really hot out in Vancouver, British Columbia. It's really cold in Sydney, Nova Scotia, because Sydney, Nova Scotia had lots of rain on the other day. Then it changed over to wet snow Tuesday night and Wednesday and melted right away in Sydney, Nova Scotia, where I live. It's been a lot of cold weather heading on the east coast of Canada, like Sydney, Nova Scotia. Then it got cold air, warm air, and cold air fighting each other in the east coast of Canada, such as Sydney, Nova Scotia, Halifax.
Well, you're right. Today and all this week, weather's been in the high teens, right? So it's been really hot. And keeping in mind, it's only April 15th. It's really early in the year for it to be so hot, which does two things. In a place like this where people are living in tents or are homeless, what happens is one thing is that it's much easier to sleep at night when you don't have cold weather or rain or those kinds of problems. But today I was up on Joey. You might you would know this area, and others would as well. On Main and Hastings on the Zero Block, I was working down there, and you know what's happening already is people are getting sunburns and they're getting dehydrated. That it's so hot. So it's a crazy, it's a crazy outcome for that. That like the weather impact, right?
If any of you also have questions for Ronnie as we go, feel free to ask.
Yeah.
So the mood obviously is a bit better this week than Ronnie. How is we've been setting records for the last year on overdose deaths. How has the last week been? How are you doing?
Well, the end of the week was last week was, since I spoke to you, it was busy and it was difficult, but the early part of this week has been much quieter as far as incidences of overdose and stuff like that goes. Yesterday marked 5 years since a public health crisis was declared in the province, right? And which is, people who were working frontline at that time know that the crisis had already been existing for like a year and a half prior to that. So it's been more like 7 years since that happened. And so, yeah, yesterday there was a lot of events to mark that and to try to increase awareness around that we're still trying to manage a crisis here, right? So
you told me one time when I was in Vancouver hanging out with you that it was really in, you noticed when working at the safe injection site, I don't know if it was 2014 or 15, but it was around Thanksgiving that there was a sudden change in what was going on.
Yeah, it was 2014 Thanksgiving. It changed overnight. It's pointing this way. Anyway, you're fine. Some people were nervous walking around me thinking my camera's pointing that way when it's pointing at me.
They're filming me.
Yeah. It's actually trying to film in the camp, inside the camp instead of on the road, has actually unsettled some people here. But I mentioned last week that this is done with the blessing of the camp leadership and all of that stuff. And I was trying to get this guy Mo to come in here, but I couldn't find him earlier tonight, and he was going to be our regular weather updater to do it with me. But hopefully next week, I'll have him all lined up and he'll be able to hear everyone's voice and it won't just be me. But yeah, you're right. That reference to Thanksgiving 2014, everything switched.
How many people are in the camp?
Between 200 and 300. It's a little over 200. Although everything's changing now. It's a little bit sad here because by the end of the month, everyone has to move. And so, that'll be finding new places to go and not just places to go, but adequate housing is the big challenge for everyone in the camp. So,
I'll just interrupt for a second. This is my friend Noelle, who's also down in the Lower Mainland, and we didn't introduce her because we were right full conversation with Mark when
awesome.
He came on late. Noelle, so can you just ask your question again so I can get a good clip of it for the radio show?
Yeah, so I'm Noelle. I also live in the downtown east side, and some of the stuff that your other friend was talking about, yeah, that's been a huge thing in the downtown east side, and a lot of my close friends also do frontline work in the neighborhood. But the question that I was asking Ronnie was about the eviction and what are folks planning to do at the end of the month? Are they planning to resist? Are folks going into housing, or are they just gonna find another park?
That stuff I can't answer. I'm not I'm not representing. I'm here with the blessing of the park leadership to talk about weather and give a little weather update. But I don't really know what that decision making level is.
One of those solutions will come about.
Yeah, and I mean and the main thing is there is some housing, but I don't. Everyone hopes it's enough, but
It never is.
No,
I remember Oppenheimer's eviction as well, and that was pretty terrible because there was nowhere near enough housing for the people that were in that park. And they fenced off the whole park, saying they were going to give it back to the community. And that's my neighborhood, and we still have no park to go to.
Yeah, I know. I live there as well. It's my neighborhood as well.
It's really good to see you, Ronnie, every time.
Yeah.
Just feel free to stick around with us and hang in the show. And of course, we want to see you every week that you can. And
awesome.
Just proud of you, and you've always done good work. And
quick question from just a couple quick questions. One, what kind of weather has the biggest impact on the camps, and how is COVID affecting it? Because we hear all about everybody's sort of stuck at home, but we don't hear a lot about people who don't have homes.
COVID has been a really amazing thing here because it didn't have an immediate impact like a year ago. There was concern that a place where people can't distance would be, ground zero of where an outbreak would occur, but it didn't really happen. I mean, it has happened later where there have been instances and so on. One thing that I think has been really good and effective is that when vaccinations have rolled out, they really prioritize this neighborhood. So for example, I've been vaccinated as a frontline worker. They've had clinics. I've gone, knocking on doors in SROs and buildings and stuff like that to try to activate people to go out. And it started out where there was vaccinations, they were trying to find people to vaccinate at the end of the day. And then now if they have a clinic, there are lineups and they can't, they can't get it. Satisfy everyone, right? So that is thank goodness, right? That it's been prioritized, that the lack of space has been recognized as a priority for people, to social distance in this neighborhood in environments where people are living in shoebox size, small bedroom size. That's their entire home. If living in shelters or in homeless populations, right? So they've really prioritized vaccination rollouts in this neighborhood. Somewhat, I would say that's been pretty effective. It's been a good response. Moving through, compounding the public health crisis of overdose as well as the COVID public health crisis. You know, it's been difficult, and mainly what it's done is like it's limited services, right? Like people haven't had access to clinic space or supervised injection space as much as they used to. You know, things have sort of leveled out in the past, you know, let's say 4 to 6 months, where the services are more or less intact, but you know, that's really impacted the incidences of overdose and the survivability of it. I know this is supposed to be a comedy. I'm not being very funny, am I?
No, man, it's not
It's
comedy.
not been a funny episode.
Storytelling.
Yeah.
Storytelling is fun too.
Yeah,
It's
what
not
I
been a funny episode.
also made a huge impact on that is a lot of the visitor restrictions in a lot of the
Right.
buildings around the downtown east side is that in addition to not having a lot of the services, there have also been folks that live in some of the SROs that also no longer have the support of being able
right.
to have visitors to spot them or bring them stuff or just to generally be their support network.
For sure. Isolation is, you know, how do you evaluate that? Like, you can sort of count the number of overdoses, but you can't count what isolation feels like, right? So that's a really good point. You know,
You are listening
Yeah,
to
it's
the
been-
Meteorological Report on CFR 88.7 FM in Prince George, airing every Saturday at 10 a.m. and every Tuesday afternoon at 4 p.m. And we are looking for more radio stations. So if you know a radio station, make sure to get in touch with us. Frankie MacDonald, what do you got to say?
I'm doing great so far. I've been going for walks and things like that. I was doing my own weather report for the state of Maine. They're getting the major storm. It's a nor'easter. It's going to bring rain changing over. The snow's going to be around 3 to 7 inches of snow in the state of Maine. On Friday night, I found a prophecy from on Reddit, on the Maine subreddit, and I did a forecast for Maine, and I did it, and I was talking to Chris St. Clair on the interview with Greg Hanna on Wednesday, February 25th, 2015, when Greg Hanna interviewed me on Skype way back in 2015. It's still on YouTube, RUTTV, and Nathan Coleman interviewed me out the Mayflower Mountain, February 2015. He interviewed me again in September 2015. He interviewed me in March 2016 in a snowstorm and was on the Weather Network. Nathan Coleman. He lives in Halifax, Nova Scotia. It's been cold out in Sydney lately. It's been in snow on Tuesday night and Wednesday morning in my area, Sydney, Nova Scotia. Mark Robinson came down to Sydney with Nathan Coleman just to chase storms. And Nathan Coleman's a really nice guy. He lives in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I hope you'll get Nathan Coleman onto your show before you know it. And Gary Mansfield from CBC or Ryan MacDonald of CTV Atlantic.
I'll send him a note.
If you hear this, Nathan, you are wanted.
Yeah, I'll send him a note.
On other interviews in 2015, I was talking to Jim Cantorn on the phone in the second half of 2015 in the month of November on one of my interview podcasts. I was talking to Jim Cantorn off the Weather Channel, brief period of time. Way back in 2015, I was on RT News for my massive earthquake that hit New Zealand anytime soon. I did a video on October 21st, 2016. 3 weeks later, on November 13, 2016, 7.8 magnitude earthquake actually happened in New Zealand. I was all over the news, including RT.
You know what Donald Trump would call you, Frankie? Donald Trump would call you a shameless self-promoter.
Facts, yeah, I know. Oh my God, that's facts.
No
Oh
one
my
cares
God.
what Donald
Coming
Trump
from
thinks.
Washboard Hank.
Washboard Hank, I request the donut song.
I've got a weather song. I
Ooh,
was hit by
say
lightning.
another song.
I was hit by
Say
lightning.
that
Have you
song.
guys been hit by
Hey,
lightning?
we let Washboard Hank talk? Sorry,
Any
what
of
were you
guys
saying,
been
Washboard
hit
Hank?
by lightning?
I have.
Or gal?
Yes, you know I have.
Well, you did. Who?
Twice, but just
You were
not
hit
in
by
the
lightning
not in the not in the head.
That's not supposed to happen. Well, did I ever tell you about the time I was hit by lightning? Hit me in the shoulder and it went right down my arm. I've got to admit, it was just a little frightening. So I took it to the small town doctor, figured it wouldn't do no harm. Doctor saw me right away, it didn't have to wait. I thought, by gosh, this Medicare, geez, it sure is great. I told him about the lightning. He said, take your trousers off. Then he held me by the testicles, and then he made me cough. He said, "You're going to be fine. You can leave now, you can go." But why it grabbed me by the balls was something I had to know. So I asked a passing stranger I met out on the street. He says, "Geez, that's sure funny. That's how he cured my athlete's feet." Yes, if your head had started to ache, he'd grab you by the balls. If your arm you happened to break, he'd grab you by the balls. If you had too much birthday cake, he'd grab you by the balls. For any pain or ache, or even an erection you couldn't make, he'd grab you by the balls. Yes, he'd grab you by the balls for any malady. It was just a case where Medicare was not exactly free.
Oh my God, Hank.
Hey, now that now was a great song. That was a great song, no doubt about it.
And you know what? It was true. It's
Wow.
a true story. I was a lifeguard at Joy Bible Camp.
Oh, it's even better.
Absolutely
Way
true.
better.
And Uncle Ernie, we call the minister an uncle. And Uncle Ernie was the minister, and he took me to the doctor. And this doctor was famous, but it was a little town, and they put up with his testicle fetish, because if they didn't, they wouldn't have a doctor. And so,
I've never even heard of that before. I don't think.
so,
I'm not going to try searching it up. I'm not searching that up. No way. I'm not gonna. No.
No, it's true. It's true. And so it's all done, and I get back out to the car, and Uncle Ernie's waiting for me, and he says, "So, Howard, how did it go?" And I said, "Well, it was kind of strange. He grabbed me by the testicles and made me cough." And Uncle Ernie just said, "Oh, he does that for everybody." Can't make it up.
Hey, Mark.
That's
Hey, Mark, I follow you on Twitter.
Well, I appreciate that.
Give me a follow back.
So
What was that?
Give me a follow back.
Send me a note. Otherwise, I won't know what your Twitter is.
At TyCatsFan7.
At TyCatsFan7. Okay, I'll look that up when I get off.
Hey, Mark, my Twitter's at Frank McD. My Facebook is Frankie McDonald. My Instagram is Frankie McD1984. My TikTok is Frankie MacDonald 1984. My Twitch is Frankie MacDonald 1984. And my Snapchat is Frankie MacDon. My LinkedIn is Frankie MacDonald. My YouTube channel is Dogs and Wolves.
I think I'm following you. I'm pretty sure I'm following you on Twitter, Frankie. I'm quite sure of it.
Oh, sorry. Am I interrupting you? Sorry. I just want to ask Mark or anybody, have you ever seen hailstones the size of golf balls or softballs or whatever they say?
Yeah, I smashed the windshield out of the Weather Network car in baseballs.
Baseball size.
Yeah, in Texas. Yeah,
So
took the
what do you
windshield
do?
right out.
What do you do if you're out in the open and you're in a hailstorm with baseballs?
You get killed.
Wear your armor.
Like,
Get out of
honestly,
there is what you do.
Yeah, I mean, there's the best thing you can do if you're getting hit by something like that is put your back and put your ass end into the sky, because that's gonna do the least damage. You've got to protect your head. People get killed from getting hit in the head, right? So I mean, I'm not kidding. That's what you have to do.
Of course, it sounds so funny.
Yeah, but you got to protect your head. I mean, the thing is, like, if you got baseballs, keep in mind they're coming in at like 70 kilometers an hour or faster.
More than that, like 100, probably, like more than 100.
It'll break bones. Like it'll break bones. So like, if you're ever caught in a hailstorm like that and you're in the car, I don't care what it sounds like. I don't care what gets taken out. You stay in the car. It will pass by. And the other thing is that when you get into hailstones that size, there's actually not that many of them. So, like I was in one storm where we punched through the northern side of the storm and came out into what we call the Houck. And literally right to our right, so like just to the west, was the forming tornado. And so we had to go south and then turn east really fast to get out of the way of this tornado. And so we made that turn, and I'm half out the window trying to film behind us because my buddy was driving, and all I hear is whoosh past my ear, and I just look, and there's a hailstone about this big.
What if happens if the
that went flying
hailstone
past the
travels?
car.
What if happens if the hailstone travels 2,000 miles per hour?
2,000.
Well, that's not
it's
going
from
to
outer
happen on this
space.
planet. It might happen on a planet the size of Jupiter, but that's well beyond the speed of sound. So probably not. If you had a hailstone traveling at that speed, you wouldn't feel it, and it would wipe your car out. So you wouldn't have to worry.
What if happens if the hailstone size of the Earth?
Well, a hailstone the size of the Earth. Well, you know what? Literally, we can have out in space. You can have planets that are nothing but ice. Now, most of the time, because of the way physics works, you actually won't have it ice all the way out. Because as you increase the pressure, as you get in, close because of gravity, then it'll actually melt. So what you'll actually have is potentially right at the center of the Earth, center of an ice planet, you would have like a solid type of ice that's unlike anything we have on our planet. And then as you move out, you'd have liquid water, and then you'd have ice on the outer shell. It can happen, but it'd be a weird planet and very wild. And I can almost guarantee you, it's out there somewhere.
Wow.
It's one of Jupiter's moons,
SpaceX.
Europa.
SpaceX and Coca-Cola.
Yeah, Europa's got a rocky core to it though. So like there's rock, liquid water, ice. And that ice may be a mile or two or even more feet, it could be absolutely, kilometers thick. But because of the way Europa moves around Jupiter and the tidal forces on that, it actually gives it just enough energy to keep the liquid water around that rocky core. So of all planets, or all sort of planetary bodies in the solar system, that one may be the one most likely to have life on it. But how we find it is another question entirely.
Hey, Mark, what do you think? How's Hamilton going to be for storms this year?
Oh man, hard to say. Right now we've had some really early storms. Like we've had a couple. I've actually already got some amazing lightning shots from the other night near Waterloo, and north of Hamilton. But it's hard to know. Like it's hard to give a sort of seasonal forecast other than to say we had a really active year last year, like incredibly active. Will we have something similar this year? Yeah, it's potentially. It really sort of depends on also how wet Saskatchewan gets. So if Saskatchewan goes through a drought, continues on drought, it's going to potentially be very active here in Southern Ontario. But if the drought breaks, you may see the more active season out in the prairies, which is why, fingers crossed, I may be heading out to Saskatchewan to go chasing in July. We'll see. It's just sort of one of those things where it's like, well, maybe, depending on how COVID goes.
I remember when Hamilton had a tornado back in 2006, and it struck up like 10 minutes away from my house up at Kings Forest.
Yep, I know the one.
Hey, Mark,
I know the one.
I remember in
October 2016. Typhoon Sanda, remnants Typhoon Sanda hit Vancouver, British Columbia, and Victoria, British Columbia in October 2016. I got so many views in one of my videos that time.
Yep, I remember that one too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thanks very much for coming on the show. Thanks very much for coming on the show this week, Mark. And we are pretty much wrapped. Good chance. I've chased storms in Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and even seen tornado in BC. Good chance if we don't have a fire season. I think we're gonna. If there's a fire season, I'll be working hard here.
I think
If
you're
not, maybe
going to have a fire season.
Maybe if there's not a fire season, I'll cross your path in Saskatchewan somewhere this year, Mark.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to come out for fire season too. I got to get Storm Hunters back up and running, so we'll see what happens.
And if I forget, subscribe to Joy Only's YouTube channel. You won't forget. Thanks for tuning in.
What was your Twitter again?
At TyCatsFan7.
TyCatsFan7. Okay, I'll do that right away. Okay. Thanks,
Mark
guys.
Robinson from the Weather Network. Thank you very much for coming on. You've been listening.
Guys. I'm Mark Robinson, Storm Hunter for the Weather Network. You're listening to C4 Radio 88.7.
I'd love to hear how your week's looking, what the weather's looking like, what radio stations you're playing on, and just give us a nice goodbye.
Okay, all right. Yeah, this week ahead, we're going to be dealing with yet another little snow event Sunday. I mentioned that earlier. But other than that, I'll be doing actually, I might be board opting a couple hockey games this weekend for the Brooks Bandits, and they're on fire. They've only lost one game this season, and we've only had a very short season actually. So there's that, and then. As we go into next week, it's kind of hit and miss. It all depends on the weather, etc. So the radio stations I'm on is Real Country 105.7 here in Brooks, Boom 101.1 here in Brooks, as well as Real Country 92.7 and Real Country 94.9 in Crow's Nest Pass. Also, I might be jumping on Energy 106 in Winnipeg once in a while whenever there's wild weather going on there. And what else? So sometimes I jump on K96.3 in Kelowna, BC. And what else? What other stations I've been on? I've been on K97 in Edmonton and Hot 105.5 in Charlottetown, PEI. So yeah, there you go. Those are that's my work next week.
And now 88.7 FM in Prince George.
There you go. There you go. Another one for the list.
Please come in every show if you can, man. I just think you're totally. You've been listening to the Comedeorological Report, hosted by Dylan Atack, Frankie MacDonald, myself, Joey Only, and all our friends all across Canada and North America. Thanks for being on. Thanks for listening to us. 88.7 FM, Seafer, w.seafer.ca. And like I say, if you know a radio station that should be playing us, call us now. We'll see you next week, everybody.
Hey there, it's me, your old pal Cheesebun Peterson, Brohams News, YouTube. And yeah, as you can see here, I've just been enjoying the sunshine. Getting a little dark now. I was actually staring at the star there, the fromage star in the cheese nebula up there, right next to the little dipper, the fondue dipper. Yeah. Anyways, as you can see, obviously it's been nice out. I've been out here tanning my hide. And, yeah, it's clear skies last few days in the Shuswap region. And I don't think we're going to get rain anytime soon, which could be bad news for forest fires and such. But if you're just kicking back and enjoying a nice day, it's a great time to go down, take a walk on the beach, maybe jump in the lake for the first time of the year. Just soak it in before all the tourists get out here. They'll be fucking it up. And if you got nothing else to do at nighttime, just stare at the stars. Clear skies. Stare at the stars. And also, I think there's aliens out there.
Well, whether it's hot, whether it's cold, whether it's hot, Frankie's got the weather we got. Wait a minute. Well, whether it's cold, whether it's hot, Frankie's got the weather, whether or not. There it is.